All right. Yeah, I think we're good. So, listen, I'm trying to get through this deep dive on Sarah Dawn Moore somewhat quickly. So, I apologize. I'm not going to try. I'm going to try to not do a lot of editing just so I can get this content or this series out. It's going to be about 7 or 8 episodes, but so let's just dive in. If you haven't seen parts 1 and 2, I'll refer to them a little bit. I'll give you links in a pinned comment. But in part 2, I broke down the hot chick effect that rewards female dating and relationship grifters. I call them grifters. They're not coaches. They're not anything else. They're just grifters. And how their cleavage and their sexual tension create their illusion of authority. What I want to do right now is let's move into Sarah Dawn Brown's credentials, or in this case, the lack of them, as we continue this lengthy deep dive into Sarah's so-called expertise that she conveniently reignited hours after a national tragedy that left men questioning everything from their faith to their willingness to tolerate vile women. So listen, what I'm about to say is, I understand that it's going to come across as arrogant to some of you. But I will not apologize for what I'm about to say for these next couple of statements, because it's done for a purpose and for the sake of exposing Sarah and her fellow female relationship and coach gurus in those grifters. All right? So I'm going to make a comparison here real quick. I have 4 college degrees, an associate's degree in marketing, a bachelor's degree in psychology, a master's degree in psychology, and a doctorate degree in community psychology. You can see two of those diplomas right here. The other 2 are too higher for you to see. I wrote my master's thesis, and that resulted in 4 published peer-reviewed research articles. My doctoral dissertation, I wrote that. It took me more than 2 years from start to finish, just as one part of my completion of my doctoral requirements. I have 1 book that's already published, with another one coming soon. I've spent more than 2 decades studying research, methodology, writing and publishing and reading peer-reviewed research articles in research work. I've been on top of men's issues for more than 2 decades, personally and privately and professionally. And working in a career now that I've been in for about 10 years, working in an area in which men's areas are sometimes, but not often enough, addressed. But what I have never done is lean on vague and personal trauma work or healing from childhood patterns as qualifications to charge men $1,000 with no refund to teach them masculinity or to tell them that intelligence is keeping them single. Actually, now that I think about it, I'm going to put some overlays in here. All right, because I don't want you just to take my word for it. I'm going to give you the overlays here. So Sarah Dawn Moore, though, her About Me page on her website says that she studied music in college. She says that she was apparently on her way to Broadway. However, she defines that. And then she moved into corporate work. Again, that's as much as we get. Her website, again, even further on, says that she has a background in recovery and trauma work. And I think I saw something about healing dependency of all kinds, especially in toxic relationships. And holy shit, fellas, if you're dealing with a woman that says she's dealt in trauma work and healing dependencies and toxic relationships, who the fuck is giving $1,000 to someone in which that is their selling point? That's their hook. That's their tagline. That's their, I don't know what else that might be. But so let me ask you this. So what is that trauma work? What is it? From what I can tell, and listen, I've gotten a couple of comments on a couple of previous parts of this deep dive, and it has given me a little bit of insight. But from what I can tell, her trauma is losing her father at a young age. And is that hurtful? Yes, of course it is. It's even traumatic. I obviously traumatic. Yes, that's fine. But I think my professional, again, I am not a clinical psychologist, for those of you wondering. Again, I mentioned a moment ago, my doctorate, my psychology doctorate degree is in community psychology, so I am not a clinical licensed psychologist. In fact, most of my interests are in behavioral and social psychology. So that's where my interests lie, and that's why I tend to quote most of the time behavioral and social psychology type topics and examples and research. Okay, but fine, Sarah, you had that traumatic experience, and that's totally legitimate. But I would say go do trauma work and healing with other kids and young adults who also lost a parent at a young age, right? What does that have to do, losing a parent at a young age, a father, have to do now with your trauma experience in helping men? Seriously, what the fuck? And also, to reinforce a comeback, again, Sarah's comeback, if you saw episode or parts 1 and 2, for Sarah to label her comeback last week, just within, again, hours, a day or two, as a way to connect with Charlie Kirk's children, because they also lost a father at a young age. Fuck off, Sarah. Fuck off. I would actually encourage, please, go watch her video. Go watch it. I will send the little, the very small content and some subscriber list that I have. The viewers I do have, I'm learning. You're very dedicated. Thank you for being here. But if you're new here, listen, go watch Sarah's. I'm not going to put the link here, anything like that, but look up Sarah and watch her I'm Back video, in which she does say, hey, I also understand. I lost a father at a young age, and my heart goes out to Charlie's children. I don't even know if she actually mentions Charlie. I'm thinking Sarah is very, very smart, and she chooses her words very, very carefully. And I say that to say that she's, I think, bringing her comeback into a less than obvious grift, which I'm exposing here as it is. But anyway, go watch Sarah's video, send her some whatever views I can, and then come back for context, leave me a comment. But nothing I found from Sarah tells me that her trauma was diagnosed by clinicians. That'll be another topic for another day. I'm not entirely thrilled or convinced by modern day therapy, but I haven't found anything from Sarah that says that she was actually diagnosed with trauma. Is not a diagnosis. Let's just get that out of the way. But just because vague childhood pain, toxic relationships, subconscious beliefs, whatever. Well, listen. Let's compare that with everything that Sarah claims. Again, from what I can tell, I might have been missing something. This is a deep dive, so I did take my time, but I didn't make it my career for 2 weeks. But as far as I can tell, what Sarah claims is that she has over 10 years of coaching. Fine. Anybody could have said that. They have whatever. 500, more than 500 5-star reviews. Might be true, but we all know that, how easily those can be bought. evolutionary psychology influence because she crafted. Sorry, I'm going to lean into my notes right now. She crafted key takeaways from clinical trials in her Fortune 500 past. Do any of you understand what that means? If you have context, or any of you, in fact, I've gotten a couple of comments in my videos about people, those of you viewers who are more familiar with Sarah than I am. Again, or at least have known of her content for longer than I have. I've done this deep dive, but I have not known about Sarah for probably more than a week since she made her return. But what the fuck does that mean? Apparently, and tell me if I'm wrong, evolutionary psychology influence. She crafted key takeaways from clinical trials in her Fortune 500 past. What does that mean? I don't even know what that means. So let's look at some contrast here. I've walked in rooms, I've led rooms with dissertation committees. I've defended my own. I've been on dissertation committees in which I approve or disapprove of other doctoral students' dissertations, which is they need the approval for them to meet the requirements of their doctoral requirements. I've taught psychology courses in multiple states, multiple universities. I've had my professors critique my publications. I've defended my work in states and research conferences all over the Midwest and the East Coast. All of my credentials are, again, I know some of you are going to say, listen, yeah, you're just talking about all of this, and we don't need to hear all about this. And believe me, it's going to be very rare in which I talk about my experience in my credentials, but this is for a point, right? My credentials are on paper. They're online. They're fully public. In fact, I made a point when I started this channel that I would make my my Facebook, my Instagram, my X account, I think my LinkedIn, all of that. I think probably all of them are still entirely public. Facebook I may have changed, but there's nothing that I have. None of my credentials am I hiding. Anything you want to find out about me? And I did this for a purpose because I knew when I started this channel and I wanted to start helping men that somebody at some point would do this shit to me. And this is exactly why we do not hide behind I experienced trauma. I help people do this. I have 500 people that I've helped. It's because those of us who want to actually help people, we make ourselves visible. We expose ourselves so that our credentials, our research, our publications are easily accessible. Again, whether it's through LinkedIn or anything else. Rate My Professor. Fuck, I think I have horrible ratings on Rate My Professor. But at least what that does is it indicates and it shows that I did in fact teach college psychology courses. Look for something like that from Sarah. What do you find? Again, you find this shit right here. Again, I'm looking it up here. I'll probably overlay a couple of things. But what Sarah right here is telling us is that she's got a proven 90-day system for becoming a desirable man. Proven. But in another section of her website, she says that it's non-refundable, which I believe, I'm not going to look it up, but go look it up yourself. It's bolded and italicized, non-refundable. And again, this is my contextual understanding of what she said. I'm not going to look it up because if it doesn't work, it's because you're not working hard enough. And you're not following whatever her plan is, right? So she removes entire responsibility from herself. Yet here on this page that we're looking at right now, it's proven in 90 days that you will become a desirable man. So let's move on. So again, Sarah tells that she relies on her trauma work as a credential. But that could mean anything. Again, from my understanding, she lost her father at a very young age, and that's a terrible thing to happen. But for everyone else watching her videos, for anyone that might want to hire her, trauma work could mean anything. And again, I had to do a little bit of investigation and rely on some people leaving comments to a couple of the previous parts of this video to actually know what happened to Sarah. I think I learned that that the loss of her father was from a comment that somebody had posted. I don't know that I found it from her actual content herself, but my point is that trauma recovery could mean anything to anybody. And if they can't find out her background, if they don't spend 4 hours figuring out who this chick is, they're going to get suckered. I mean, trauma could mean anything to any unassuming viewer with a credit card, and that's what she's hoping. It could be divorce, growing up with absent parents, which those are topics I'm used to, or topics that I speak to a lot. Or it could be, being with a toxic partner, which apparently Sarah has stated has been her experience. But seriously, Sarah, who the fuck are you? And what do you fix? Maybe I'm speaking for myself right now, but for some of you who are still watching, let me just, if I could take this privilege and speak for you. We don't know what qualifies you to call yourself a trauma-based coach versus someone who went through hardship and then decided to sell it as coaching. Seriously, who the fuck are you? When I look at Sarah's principles, I'll call them principles, to me it comes around or across as just like, I don't know, a bunch of sound bites, I guess. It's like healing past unhealthy programming from childhood. I'm recovering from low self-esteem. Who the fuck among us has not done that? This actually makes me think. I'm going to go off topic here for just a moment, so please bear with me. Again, I realize, again, that I have a tendency to ramble on, but this is one of those things that women take normal, everyday experiences and turn them into psychological disorders. Healing from past unhealthy programming from childhood. First of all, thank you for the lingo speak. And then she's apparently also recovering from low self-esteem. Who among us has not done that? Again, she is taking, I will say at this point, she is taking those normal everyday experiences that all of us have. We're not fucking special. It's all of us. It's all of us have gone through that. Decoding belief systems, she says. And what she can help us with, guys, is regaining masculine and feminine polarity. This was a brief statement I made in part 2, but seriously, Sarah, you're gonna fucking tell me how to regain my masculine polarity today in 2025? So listen, it's all emotional territory in which people claim as trauma, but without having trained metrics or assessments or clinical oversight, what is Sarah doing here? So I want to be very fucking clear right now. I'm not saying that people should not talk about their pain or childhood patterns. Yes, all of that is very serious. And for some people, and even for myself at one point, it required a bit of clinical insight and speaking with professionals to help me work through that. Totally get it. That's fine. But when people are charging 4 or 5 figure service fees for memberships, And when they're presenting themselves as someone that men should trust with their insecurity or that person's credentials, we need more than a vague recovery plus trauma work means I can help you get a woman, which is basically is what Sarah is selling. And again, I'll say it again: men deserve a lot better than that. So, for men who are looking for real help, here's what real credentialing looks like. All right, so if you're out there looking for answers, looking for help, here's a couple of things I think that could help. The person that you're speaking with or might consider helping you, do they have, pardon me, published peer-reviewed research? That's a question you should ask them. Let them answer yes or no. And if they say yes, say, I would like a copy of that. I want to read that. Please give me your peer-reviewed published research, and let me make my decision after that. Do they have also degrees in psychology, psychiatry, or other clinical fields? Maybe something like social work might even be important for you. Ask them if they've had supervised clinical hours or licensing. Anybody with with more than a bachelor's degree, anyone with and I'll say probably specific within the clinical type degrees. Again, my degree is not clinical. Please let me make that very clear. I'm not a clinical psychologist. But again, whether it's a social worker, a licensed family and marriage therapist, anything like that, ask them, where did they do their clinical work? How many hours do they have? And where are or were they licensed? With all of that, let me just say that I would never do what Sarah is doing. And again, it's not just about Sarah, but we are diving into her in this series. I would never do any of the things that Sarah is doing, selling stuff without zero credentials, but rather, because I have a pretty face or a low top, and I, again, conveniently forgot to button the top of my sweater. Because what that does is all of that is it just turns human pain and human needs and their strive for improvement. It just turns all of that stuff into a product without the safety net of real qualifications and people that really have their best interest in help in mind. So, yes, this part 3 really actually kind of does hit home with me. What Sarah presents I would say, is drama. The suffering, her personal story, yeah, it gets turned into what she thinks is credibility. I would argue, again, it's turning most of our just like daily experiences into pathology. Experiencing, a perhaps personally traumatic event is normal, I'd say. We all do it. But that credibility is nothing more than built on vague drama, not verified training from Sarah or these other gurus. So at the end of the day, I would say that Sarah's credibility is not built on any type of evidence or proof. It's built on a grift, her sex appeal, as I mentioned in part 2, and the empathy performance. Again, very first beginning of, or in part 1, I've gone through this and I've had these bad experiences and everything, so I understand where you've been. It's an empathy grift. A tragic backstory, yeah, but also a very, very vague line about trauma work. The assumption that looking the part is the same as earning that part. So listen, in part 4 coming up next, what I'm going to do is I'll expose exactly what Sarah's $997 funnel costs men. Because from what I can tell, that's what she's charging. She has other plans, but her $997 funnel costs men the memberships, the hyper discounted value, because of course at $997 you're getting a great deal, and the non-refundable price that show that her work is not guidance but a grift. So I'll see you next time.